Welcome back to your Divine Journey 2 Circle of Hell. Your sentence is permanent. No parole, no dinosaur chicken nuggets. In the last episode, we spent a large chunk of it beefing with Old Twilight Forest, trying to search the world for McGuffins to gain access to the new world so we can make more progress. In this episode, we're going to continue that quest, and maybe even touch up on some base requirements that I've neglected. Do we succeed? Probably, I don't know. Stay tuned and find out. If you like what you see here today, hit the like and sub buttons, ring that bell, and share the series with a friend or some shit. If we hit 50,000 subs, I'll play Grab New Horizons to completion, and if we hit 100,000 subs, I get a cool shiny silver brick and my face becomes a really big friendly smile. This show spreads almost purely through word of mouth, so any and all help would be greatly appreciated. Or don't, you do you. I'm not your mom. Let's pick up where we last left off. Hey, this is a post-recording bottom dweller, mid-editing bottom dweller. I found something rather interesting with my footage. Well, first off, let me say something. During this video, I missed some clips, and it is my fault this time, not Windows. This new cadence I wasn't used to recording to, so I kind of missed some clips. I got a solution for next time, so don't worry. As for the actual issue, most of my footage had like a weird black line on the side, and what I didn't realize is OBS on its own like volition moved my footage over like 2 inches, or my like actual screen over 2 inches. So there's some footage is just going to be scaled up for like little to no reason. I just want to let you know, if it looks a bit jittery or maybe even a little inconsistent, that's why. I just want to let you know. Sorry about that. Let's get back to the video. Days 200 through 210, we're going to try to tweak the usual narration cadence. Instead of listing every single day, I'm instead just going to do the range of days and present them in order, so hopefully that makes the narration more buttery smooth while preserving the documentary nature of the series. This was mostly done because I've noticed that in my previous episodes, there were just a lot of episodes where I was just like, I mined a mountain, I went fishing, I picked my nose. Needless to say, I didn't find that particularly interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and do this cadence for the sake of, like, actually making it enjoyable for both you and me. So, hopefully this is a nice change, I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Anyways, I gotta update the members board. Now, a lot of you are probably gonna be confused by the massive influx of members, but that's because a month ago, I brought up that my car required a wallet-destroying repair and that finances were tight. I knew some people would probably pitch in to help, but I had zero idea that it'd be over 20 of you. I'd say your names individually, but 20 names is a lot of names to read off at the start of an episode, so instead I'm going to give you this panning shot of all names, and hopefully that does you justice. Needless to say, y'all's help has been greatly appreciated, and I'm floored to have your support like this. The crazier thing is how many of you stayed past 1 month. I mean, y'all are saints. Thank you so much. Now, this is going to make the comment section side look incredibly funny comparatively, because now we have a wall that's loosely about 11 or 12 blocks long, and I don't often take that many comments to add on here. But, well, you know, we'll add them. The first comment we got here is from Painted Gator, who says, naming a non-tinker sword the Bat gets me a guaranteed drop rate of bat wings when swatting bats. Probably the single, like, fucking dumbest thing I've ever heard, but I ain't opposed to trying it at this point. Beats looking for bats and not getting the wings in the first place. Eggy the Egg said that my mod pack, bottom of the barrel, is missing a Bisect hosting sponsorship. I will fill your computer with peanut butter and raw egg. And this last one here is just more of a general statement, but there were a number of comments in general also suggesting to make an automatic plant farm using elemental soil so I can feed it into my machines to make infinite biodiesel. Now that's a great idea, actually. We gotta do that this episode. And that about covers it. I know that seems like a small amount of comments here, but that's because a lot of people were generally giving the same advice, and I didn't want the entire board filled with basically duplicate statements. Thanks, as always, for the fun and useful comments, and surely this will remain this way, and someone won't call me slurs in the future. If you want to be on the board, become a member or leave a comment down below. I love reading your comments, even if it has gotten, you know, a lot harder with how many of you are there now. Good golly, almost 40,000 of you. Wait, I'm 10,000 away from Gretchen. Oh, no! Anyways, let's get back to the point and try that bat thing. I make our bat diamond so I don't have to think about its existence too hard, and after a lot of caving, I stumble into a bat, and it fucking works. Let's go! I tried looking for even more bats just in case I need more than 1 wing, and go home with about 5 of them. Then I take our incomplete scarab wings, 2 industrial leather, blaze powder, and a bat wing to make the scarab wings, which I follow up with making the key into the Atum dimension. Yu-Gi-Oh fans, please don't shoot me in the back of the head for how I pronounce Atum. I don't know the actual pronunciation. I'd like to keep my legs, thank you. The bottom line is that this dimension is legitimately important for a number of reasons, but the big reasons are that AE2 is literally inaccessible without this dimension, and the mod pack prevents dimensional progression until we get there. The portal to Atum is fortunately pretty painless, very similar to the Twilight Forest. Make an infinite water pool that's 3x3, completely out of sandstone, and a 2-high pillar on each corner, then chuck the scarab in there. Portal made, let's get in there, and man, I sure hope this was worth the nope. My first impression has pretty much sold me on the mentality that this dimension is kinda lame. Like, even for its time, this dimension kinda just blows ass. It lacks color, its enemies are sort of forgettable, and the new ores literally clutter your inventory unless you silk touch them. It feels like someone's first modding project, and in my opinion, I don't think it has any business being a core part of any mod pack, but you know, I commend Divine Journey 2 for at least trying something new. I can at least admit I've never played this dimension before. The only downside is, unlike Twilight Forest, I actually have to be here more than once for a number of reasons. I dive into the depths to find some meteorite segments, which are now less meteorite-shaped and more like a vein of skystone with a singular chest in it. What do you mean, only one chest? And before anyone in the comments says anything, I know that AE2 does that by default, but there's all this vein real estate of skystone, and you only give us one? One sky chest! I didn't even get all the ones I needed for the main quest, so I had to find a second one. I warp back to drop off our plates, and I head back to find ourselves a pyramid. Pyramids are a requirement to unlock future chapters. Well, I say requirement, you can actually get the ingredients by mining a bunch of relic ore, but the chances of that is so slim, the pyramids are required. We actually need Atum gear, like the relic gear from the pyramids, to craft into a component for this chapter's McGuffin, of which crafting will unlock more stuff. I locate the pyramid and begin exploring, and I die quite a few times, and let me explain why. The pyramid has a lot of hazards to it, like traps and a monster room at the very start with 2 spawners. The monsters they spawn being pretty gnarly compared to the random bandits we stumble into during the day. These aren't what do me in though, and the traps are a non-issue because you can literally turn them off with right-clicking with your pickaxe. Okay, we'll talk about this design issue later. The real kicker was actually the Pharaoh fight, and not for the reason you'd expect. The fight itself, actually pretty easy. It's literally a melee dork that summons mummies, which are slow as hell. That's not the problem. The issue is the very limited space you can move around here. You spend this entire fight doing your best cave diver impression while you're getting beaten to death with non-negligible damage, so what kills me isn't the fight more than it is the fact that the devs are bastards and gave me a smaller space than a contortionist's bedroom. Then comes the reason for my deaths. Nighttime at Atum? Way scarier than daytime by a landslide, mostly because the basals are here and they huck big damage rocks at me, and since all my shit is currently being sniffed by the Pharaoh, who hasn't seen action in a few millennia, my cheeks are exposed for all to see, and I'm taking rock like a champ. So most of my other deaths are basically just because I came back down less healthy than I would have liked. Though during one of my floundered attempts, I did discover a trick to cheese the fight. Apparently, the Pharaoh forgot how ladders work. You can pretty easily bonk him on the head from up high. However, the Pharaoh runs when I was beating him to death with my bare hands while out of reach, and tricks me into coming down and kills me. The last attempt though, I succeed this ancient Minecraft technique and net ourselves the equipment, giving us an admittedly pretty sweet helmet with basically night vision. Might actually keep this one. As well as giving us an amulet that only lasts 10 minutes. Ugh. Well, hey, who would have thunk I'd share something in common with an ancient amulet? Am I right, ladies? Anyways, if you think we're done, we're not. I have to get some seeds for flax and emmer because it allows us to craft some important bits for quests here. Also, I wanted to get a sick new beacon from the sun speakers, which I kill with relative ease after getting another map for a pyramid. Since we're keeping the helmet, I actually need to rob a second grave, and unfortunately, I don't have the torches to start that fight right yet. Though I will say I found the path to the chamber pretty much immediately, and it was shockingly close to the entrance to the maze, so this time backtracking won't be that hard. I warp home to craft some royal torches and try to use back to see if it works, and it does, but not the way I thought it would. So, apparently, back in this mod pack only works if you die, because it warps you to your last point of death. Guess we're walking as soon as I get my home warp back. After warping home, I opt to go ahead and start doing some AE2 shit. First, we gotta make charge crystals, so we need a charger, which, admittedly, the recipe is actually pretty damn easy now that steel is something we can make in literally 2 seconds. Then after we slap that shit down, we gotta charge the crystals. Slowly. After putting crystals in a microwave, I drop off the charged Certus, quartz, and redstone in a pond, and it turns into grape Kool-Aid crystals. Why did I say that like Bryce from Space King? You sure you don't want green Psycho Blaster lasers? Sorry, I'll get my tangent aside, my bad. Using our Crash Bandicoot crystals, sticky pistons, and piss crystals, I make the presser for AE2, now to make pieces to the ME system. Also slowly. Don't mind me as I get black concrete for a project I'm sure you all forgot about at this point. This does bring us into the next segment of days though. Days 211 through 220. Between trips of getting the presses swapped out for the others, I get the concrete and move on to the next major step of AE2. After making all the pressed pieces, we actually need to acquire hyper cable, which takes quartz fiber cables and 6 of our Kool-Aid crystals, so I drop off some nether quartz to turn into dust for the cables, and then spend time working on another major part of our factory. Using elemental soil, I'm going to make an automatic wheat farm that will grow the wheat and shove the wheat and seeds into the respective fermenter and press. If we set this up, it means diesel creation is completely automated with little to no management required, so I got to work on the room, shocking myself plenty of times on the non-insulated wires, and before someone comments that I should insulate my shit, no! It's not a real factory if there's no OSHA violation. Have some joy and whimsy. Several cardiac arrest episodes later, I got the essential frame of the room done, as well as a lot of elemental soil crafted and turned into aqueous soil for the auto harvest, then crafted an alarming amount of hoppers and 4 chests so I can actually utilize the auto harvest properly, then place it all together. Still missing some soil pieces, but this should be okay for now. The only issue is I currently need to manage seeds because we don't have enough item ducts, and doing it through exclusively hoppers would be resource intensive, time consuming, and I would have to learn classic redstone, which I couldn't be asked. That being said, I decided to go ahead and add a stairway to the farm just to add some verticality to our monument of late stage capitalism. Well, while that farm is going, let's go ahead and clear the pyramid we left behind. It wouldn't be a bottom dweller episode if there wasn't some sort of crime being committed at every opportunity given, and this episode is brought to you by grave robbing. Bet you thought I had a sponsorship. I reached out to GamerSubs, haven't heard anything back yet. Hopefully I'll get something, and if I do, you'll surely know. Trust and believe. That being said, this pyramid was a bust. It gave us only one necklace, which doesn't allow us to craft the McGuffin component, and while I could do another boring pyramid, I opted to do a different method. Since I need marl and other resources anyways, I decided to vein mine the shit out of the underground until a relic ore dropped an ancient relic piece. Now, it's incredibly rare, but it is possible. About a day or two of digging around, I actually find more than one. A blade, which we needed for the recipe, and a couple necklaces. So we have that component sorted, and I craft it after warping home. Once that's done though, I then set my sights on the other key components to the McGuffin. For one, we need a kiln, requiring relic ingots, small limestone bricks, and a limestone furnace of all things. Note you cannot use whatever limestone bricks you want, it has to be small limestone bricks. Pedantic little shits. Using the kiln and smelting marl will give us ceramic bricks, which allows us to craft the next two pieces. This mill dealie and a flax loom, both of which had sort of obnoxious recipes, but somehow even more obnoxious usage methods. Emmer bread, where we use the mill on emmer to make emmer flour, then turn it into dough by right-clicking water and cooking it into bread. The flour takes ages to process, and you have to actively hover over the mill and hold right-click to get it done. This is not engaging, and I don't know why this is how it's designed, but what can you do? And your reward for all this is food that gives significantly less than just crafting a couple baked potatoes and calamari all together. Hell, I'd go the extra mile and say it's not even as much as a vanilla pork chop. But that's not the point, it's just what we need for the key. Next is using the flax loom to make linen fibers, into linen sheets, into linen blocks, and then dyeing them to their respective colors to create the last pieces of the last piece of our McGuffin. This process also requiring me to stare into the abyss while holding right click. And through the power of combining all these shitty Power Rangers, we create Exodia! Wait, wrong game, my bad. We finish Atum. This key gives us access to yet another dimension that I don't feel like touching right yet, so instead let's talk about my thoughts on Atum real quick since it was a majority of this first half. I don't like it. After spending the better part of about 10 hours in total just today playing this dimension's content, I feel like it just ends up being incredibly boring. The pyramid boss, both with and without the cheese, is pretty bog standard with nothing to write home about except the shitty room spacing. The trading with sun speakers was pretty lame, and getting all those relics for gold just to get a fruit and other useless shit didn't feel good to play with. Fighting them was also pretty lame. The mod overall has an issue of just using generic presets of existing monsters without actually bringing anything genuinely fun or interesting to the table. The landscape is bland even for desert standards, the enemies are forgettable, either being piss easy or just hard in a non-interesting way, such as being given super speed, and the only reason I played it as much as I did is because the mod pack sort of forced me to. My opinion on this entire dimension is that unless a mod pack forced my hand, I wouldn't touch this mod again. Moving right along though, crafting this McGuffin does give us the first trophy in a very long time, and you'd think, you're making slow progress here. No. It's just the only trophy I've gotten my hands on was all the way in chapter fucking 7, where Roots was chapter 3. We went 3 to 4 chapters without a trophy. So don't blame me, dog, blame the system. Either way, this is actually perfectly timed because it concludes day 220. Days 221 through 230. Alright, so before we can continue, I want to get biodiesel automation completed, and then I want to make a biodiesel generator. Earlier, we started the farm to get the infinite wheat and seeds, which easily turns to biodiesel, which you know I love free fuel. A few problems though. One, we automated the fermenting, but never automated the press for the plant oil. The pipe was never connected because we needed a material that we'll discuss later for more item ducts. Two, while wheat does do everything, the problem is that it doesn't quite have as much output as I'd like. And three, we still need to build a diesel generator in the first place. Let's knock out that first problem, which requires us to touch mechanism. We need enriched iron to make the item ducts, and fortunately it's not that hard to do. We had to craft the metallurgy confuser, which required steel sheet metal, plates, and a frame with 2 furnaces, which I either fortunately had left over or had the ingredients to craft. I attach it to our power system, then to make the enriched iron I just drop some redstone in and a stack of iron, producing enriched iron and allowing us to craft the item ducts, which also completes both the metallurgy confuser and enriched iron quests. I then finish attaching the item ducts to the Carl squeezer, giving us now a truly infinite supply of plant oil and ethanol, after which I take the time to work on windows for the greenhouse room and then check on iron plates we've been pressing. Picked up the processing bits and then started crafting a lot of chests and hoppers, like an alarming amount. I'd love to tell you that I did more than this, but I didn't. This was literally a chunk of this entire day period. Turns out, hoppers are expensive. So much iron, in fact, that I actually got worried I'd run out and made our smeltery automated, then went on a mining trip in the Nether, which made me realize we haven't had a mid-mining session chat yet. So hi, how's it going? Hope you're digging the new format and whatnot. I know it's different, and even I sort of goofed up the recording process a bit because of how new it was. There's some footage that's just not here because I forgot to press the save replay button, but I think I have a solution to it that should be solved by the next episode, so bear with me, this will be less of an issue next time. I also want to say thank you all for your patience between episodes. I'm just trying to do everything I can to help the channel breathe past a certain point. Doing exclusively one thing, it gets old for both the viewer and myself, so I want to keep the air fresh around the things that I do. And I hope you all are enjoying the Calamity series, and get ready for an alternative to reviews in the near future. Tee-hee, wink wink, nudge nudge, poke in the eye, violently shits pants. Anyways, I spotted a new nether fortress that I haven't explored yet, so I marked it on the map, and I also ran into more Divine RPG shitheads, but this time I actually killed one with the Radiant spell, then warped home when my mine reached a lava-based dead end. Started the process on melting down and pouring the iron out, then went back to work on upgrading the farm. Something I had a urethra moment about is that there's more than just one type of crop that drops seeds upon harvest. A vanilla vegetable that I've been straight up neglecting until now. Beetroots. These crops usually suck, and I only got them for recipes before, but now not only did I realize that they are a crop that spits up a seed on harvest, but they also give the same general output as wheat for ethanol, with more crop output. So with this newfound information, I broke my wheat farm up into a beetroot and wheat farm, then added a filter to the item ducts to start transport, which in theory should actually speed up growth speed, because if you don't know, alternating crops actually increases how fast they grow. It's true. Try it out yourself. So that knocks out the farm, and that means we only really need to set up the hoppers. I went to the Twilight Forest because, believe it or not, beyond nickel, there's another reason to visit here. Wood! Tons of wood. An obscene amount of wood. More wood than you can fathom. And trust me, I've seen a lot of wood. With the forest at my disposal, I can just take all the sickly oak tree wood and immediately turn it into chests. Now I know what you're thinking. Isn't this too much wood? What I do with my wood is my business, thank you very much. Anyways, after destroying an entire sickly oak tree, I worked back to see my old home has been invaded by squatters. I'll deal with them later? I ain't got the energy for their bullshit right now. I mass craft a bunch of chests, then create a bunch of hoppers, and like that, biodiesel is entirely automated. No, I don't want to think about how much iron was exploded for this, I just want to enjoy the fact that it's done and producing quite a bit of diesel. Now let's work on that generator, which is actually pretty fucking pricey. And on top of which, it also brings up a point that since we now have the biodiesel automated, we're gonna need a second squeezer just for the graphite, because this generator needs a lot of it. Shouldn't be too bad considering the squeezer was pretty early into IE, but doesn't change the fact that our diesel generator has been held back for a second. Went ahead and started working on steel rods for the frames. We were gonna need them anyways for the second mandatory squeezer. I grind up some coke into coke dust and then take the coke dust to make into a shitload of steel ingots later, and then take the rods we were making and turn them into a bunch of steel frames. After doing that and crafting the components to a squeezer, I get it built and powered up. All's going well. Now let's take that coke dust and iron ingots to make steel in our arc furnace. Drain all of our power as expected. However, we weren't recharging. I look around wondering where the problem is, and then I see it. I was a dumbass and never reconnected our TE generators to the power grid, going back in time to terminate my past self later. That being said, once it was fixed, everything was going back to being fully operational. However, we ran into the issue of having not a lot of coal coke left. We need an alarming amount of coal coke to get the graphite required for our diesel engine, so I began processing some more and opted to continue the project that I'm going to go ahead and talk about now. Remember how at the start of the series I said making a parking lot would be really funny? Yeah, that's what the concrete is for. I need enough black concrete to turn the continent into a giant rock skillet, and eventually I need to get yellow concrete for the parking lot lines, because yes, I do want the lines. I eventually run out of concrete, so I do a couple things. For one, I use some remaining aqueous soil to make auto cloudberry and stalactite farms to keep my supply flowing, and then fly off to the ocean to maim the entire squid population. Which, believe it or not, is not only for their ink sacs for the concrete, but also because they drop their tentacles, which you can cook into calamari. 2 calamari and 2 baked potatoes makes fish and chips, which is a pretty damn strong food item and is pretty similar to the pork chop, but I don't have to build an entire new pen for it. After being a walking extinction event, I decided it's probably high time I make an enchanting table. Normally mod packs tend to have an alternative at this point, but it appears that the best gear for a considerable amount of time is still just going to be some enchanted diamond gear, so I make the diamond lattice, the compressed obsidian, and as many books as my farm could produce, which gives us the enchanting table. Now we just need a bunch of books. Good thing I know of a place. Looking into what's left of the village, I nabbed the only bookshelves they had. Admittedly, it's sort of weird seeing an empty village. Wonder what could have caused that? A mystery we'll take to our graves. Reminiscing on my hostile land acquisition aside, I flew around the world looking for more villages, and while I didn't find more than just one, I did find some interesting structures in a slime island. I don't know if the structures are all that relevant, but we can cross that bridge when we get there. After nabbing books, I warped home, made the bookshelves, and finished our enchanting station. Our first random enchants on our gear admittedly kinda blew ass, but honestly, I can live for now. Protection 3 and Fire Protection 2 is reasonable enough. That being said, I think I'm going to end the episode here. I know we didn't get the generator yet, but let's look on the bright side. We knocked out an entire dimension quest line, automated biodiesel and our smeltery, started our parking lot, and acquired enchanted gear. Next episode, I can definitely see us getting that generator done, and who knows, maybe we can even touch mechanism in AE2 a little more than we did just now. Only time will tell. As always, thank you to all the members and commenters who help support the show. I wouldn't be able to do this without you, but until next time, this has been The Bottom Dweller, bringing you videos you didn't ask for.